All right, so this is the review for the second part of the final. It covers conics, probability, parametrics, and polars, and sequences. The first question talks about a circle. You need to have memorized the general form of a circle. Can someone shut the door? And maybe turn the light off for the front of the room. It's, if you look, it's pretty much like an ellipse, right? Except it doesn't have the denominators. So hopefully, if you have the ellipse formula in front of you, that'll help you remember what the circle equation looks like too. All right, so to find the equation in standard form in the center and radius, we just need to complete the square. Circles aren't too bad because there are no coefficients on the x squared or y squared, hopefully. And we're going to put blanks in as we go because there's no factoring that we need to do. And we're going to add the constant over to the other side. So we have a 2 over here plus a couple blanks. All right. X minus 6, x squared minus 6x plus blank. You take half of this b value and the sign is included. So you get an x minus 3. If you were to write out x minus 3 times x minus 3 and FOIL it all out, you get x squared minus 6x plus 9. So now these are equivalent. If you square it and put a 9 up here, then you got to put that on the other side. And then if you just repeat that quickly with the y's, you take half of 10 and get y plus 5 squared. What goes in this blank, guys? 25, and 25 will go over here. So then this side, I'm not guaranteeing that's a perfect square on the final, I don't remember, but 25 plus 9 is 34 and 2 is 36, so this one comes out a nice square. So we end up with the form x minus 3 squared plus y plus 5 squared equals 36. Where the center is what? Be careful. Positive 3, negative 5, because it was opposite of both of these, okay? And then this is r squared, so r is a radius of 6. Questions? All right, number 23, what shape is this? Yeah, it has a plus in the middle here, so it is an ellipse. That's the kind of conic. On your packet, it's on the 3rd page. You need to be very, very clear that for an ellipse and only an ellipse, A is bigger than B, okay? And if that bigger number is under X, it's longer in the X direction. If that bigger number is under Y, it's longer in the Y direction. So this particular equation would have x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals 1. And this one is bigger over here, so that would be a squared here and b squared here. Just trying to rewrite the form from the sheet so that you can tell me what are h and k, guys. This is x minus h, so h is 3. Center's hk, so that would be 3. And this is y minus k, so negative 2. So the center is at 3, negative 2. And then a squared is 16 and b squared is 4. So a would be the square root of 16 or 4. And b would be the square root of 4 or 2. Now, the concept is that because the a was under the y, you're going 4 units up and 4 units down. And then b was underneath the x, and b was 2. B squared was 4, but b was 2. So you're going 2 units left and 2 units right. But there are formulas on your sheet that will help you find those. Because the bigger one was under the y here, the vertices are h comma k plus or minus a. Which would be 3 comma negative 2 plus or minus 4, which would become 3, 2, and 3, negative 6. Is that where I plotted them? 3, 2, and 3, negative 6 right there. All right, and the co-vertices, it says h plus or minus b comma k, which would be 3 plus or minus 2 comma k was negative 2. So those would be at 5, negative 2, and 1, negative 2. So that were that was those 2 points. So then you can draw it. It does not say you have to graph the foci, but you do have to find them. The equation for foci down here says h comma k plus or minus c. C does not stand for center, okay? Capital C is the center, that's the point, but little c is a relationship down here, and it is not the same relationship for ellipses and hyperbola. It's 2 different things. For an ellipse, it's a squared minus b squared, and then you take the radical. So we had a squared was 16, and b squared was 4. So c is the square root of 16 minus 4, which would be the square root of 12. How about we just leave it? Okay, if you want to simplify, you can, but you don't have to. This would be then h, which is 3 comma negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 12. And I'm going to be okay with you leaving it like that. Deal? Okay. If you type that in, just so you check, negative 2 plus the square root of 12 comes out 1.46. So it would be at 3 and then positive 1.46. It would be right inside of the ellipse. That's the trick, is just make sure they're inside the ellipse, okay? They should be on the longer or major axis, and they should stay inside the ellipse. But you don't have to graph them. I'm just giving you a heads up to check it. Any questions? All right, what about this question? This is a hyperbola, okay? Now, I changed this original question because I think it had you graphing one and completing the square and doing all kinds of stuff. And I thought just writing the equation was a little bit easier, so I hope that's true. H and K are the center right here, which is negative 1, 3. Is that right, guys? I can't see this very well. So that would be H and K. Now, if we look down here, it says a squared is under the positive term. Well, that's not super helpful. But if you look down, the vertex is a units out, okay? So wherever this vertex is, which is where it's hitting the box, which one am I using here, guys? Yeah, it's opening left and right. Does everybody see what I'm talking about? This U shape is opening left and right, so I'm using this one. So I can start writing the equation. It would be x minus h is negative 1, would be plus 1, squared, minus, and then it's y minus k, and k is 3. So this is just y minus 3 squared, equals 1. Now, you could find all kinds of different ways to find that a and that b. conceptually is the easiest to me. The distance here is A, because that's where we went to the vertex. And the other distance, which happens to be this way, would be B. Or if you know it's going this way, do you see right down here the asymptote? It says B over A is the slope. Do you remember slope, guys? Please tell me you know how to find a slope. Okay. So if you started here, you would go up 4 and over 5. Did I count those right? Can someone double check? Over 6? Up 4 and over 6. So the slope is B over A, it said. So that's telling you what A and B are. All right, so on the X direction, we went out 6. So this is A squared under here. Right down here it said A squared. So this is a 36. And then B squared is in the Y direction. It was going up and down 4. So 4 squared is 16. Questions? Could you figure that out? Honestly, I don't use the formulas. If you can find H and K and then figure out which way it's opening, then like I said, if you're going in the X direction, that goes underneath the X number. How far did you go from the center? If you go in the Y direction, that's the number that goes under the Y's. We good? So what is this? Has a minus in there. What kind of conic is it? It's a hyperbola again. But the choices are circle, ellipse, hyperbola, or parabola, okay? No guarantee what it'll be tomorrow, but all it asks you to find besides that is A and B. So again, you just need to very, very carefully look here because it says when it is a hyperbola, A squared is under the positive term. It's not the bigger one necessarily. So this is the positive term before the minus sign. So this is A squared and this is B squared. So what do I fill in over here? A is 2 and B is 6. Everybody good? One page down. Okay. This parabola question, I know it looks freaky because on your reference sheet, you're missing part of it, right? On the actual one you will have tomorrow, it gives you the rest of what the equations are. Do you know what I'm talking about, guys? Like where the foci are and all that stuff. You really don't need it for this question. I think if you just use a little common sense and understanding of parabolas, you'll be good. So where's the vertex on this one? You made the order pair for the vertex? 3, -4. What do you know about the focus or the foci for this question? Where is a foci located? Inside the curve somewhere, okay? So it might be here or it might be further up here somewhere, but there's a foci on that axis. Everybody okay? All right, and this was the vertex. This one, can you read me one of the equations? You have this on your sheet, even if you don't have all the rest of the formulas. This one has an X in the parenthesis and then a Y that's squared at the back. So the equation would be 4p x minus h equals y minus k squared. So what can you tell me? 4p is equal to -4, yes. H is what? Oh yeah, p is -1, good call. H is -1, and right here k is +3. So the vertex is at -1, 3. -1, +3, right up here. And then if p is -1, okay, the y was squared. So it opens left or right. What does a negative p-value mean? It says right down here, p is less than 0, it opens left. So at this vertex point, I don't know what it looks like, but it's opening left. So can you tell me where the focus point has to be? Even without the formulas, it's somewhere in here, yes? I have no idea where, but it's in there. Okay. We could find it. I could tell you what the formula is. When it opens sideways, the formula is h plus p comma k. But I don't think you need it. All right, which parabola has a vertex with a greater y value? And if it helps, you could graph them on the same one. This was at 3, -4, and it was opening up. So which one has a greater y value, the vertex? This one was A, this one is B, yes? Greater y value, doesn't that just mean it's higher up? Oh, this one says y, right? Okay, yeah, the focus, you're right. The vertex has greater y value. Which one is higher up, the vertex? B. Okay, explain which parabola would have a focus with a greater x value. A greater x value means what? Further which way? To the right. So which focus point has to be further to the right? Right? Inside this parabola, inside this parabola. So A, and you can just say because it's further to the right. We didn't have to really find a bunch of stuff, right? It's just concepts. Is everybody okay on that one? But it's a couple points, so make sure you don't skip that question. Are we good? All right. We have a sequence question here. What kind of a sequence is this? Sequence is this? Yes, they are doing what? So D is -50. Now, if you look at the reference sheet for an arithmetic sequence, the formula says A sub n equals A sub 1 plus n minus 1 D. I was pretty generous on the quiz, but I'm not going to be super happy if you write down 220 plus n minus 1 minus 50. Is that all those numbers in the right places? Well, they are according to this, but does that look like it's multiplied by -50? No, so I guess if you put parentheses there, it would be fine. What did I always do? When you were in Algebra 1, didn't you learn to distribute from the front, back? So I would have written that same one as -50 and -1 times, okay? Or just -50 and -1 times. You don't have to simplify. You can even leave it in the back, but make sure it's multiplied. Doesn't look like you're just subtracting 50 from some random n minus 1. All right, and then recursive, if you need to write yourself a note, this always has two parts. You have to tell me the first term, and then you have to tell me A sub n equals A sub n minus 1, and then you have to tell me how to get to the next one. Am I adding or multiplying? So this one, you would say the first term is 220, and then what? A sub n equals minus 50, okay? I'm going to go super fast through an example. If it was geometric, guys, okay, if it happened to be geometric, you would say the sequence, the formula is 3 times 2 n minus 1 times, and you could put the 2 in parentheses. That would be explicit, right? For my little, this is my little sequence right here. I made one up. Am I doing okay? Didn't mess this up, did I? A sub 1 equals 3, and A sub n would be A sub n minus 1 times 2. That was just an example if it had been geometric. what the explicit and recursive would look like. Everybody good? Okay. Find the fifth term. What do you need to do? Put in a 5. So very carefully on your calculator, somebody read it to me. Was it 4 times -2? 4 times -2 to the 5 minus 1. Is that what it was? Okay, 64. Everybody good? But you got to have those parentheses, but that should be an easy, quick question. This should also be an easy, quick question. I could explain it 3 different ways, but what's the easiest way? Yeah, calculator under math button. There's a sum symbol down here at 0. And it doesn't matter what mode you're in, just put in its terms 1 through 5. And it was 3n plus 2. Did I remember right, guys? Okay. I'm apparently in parametric, so it's using t, but it doesn't matter. I got 55. Question? That button was under math. Do you want me to explain it differently? Guys, the idea is you could put in a 1, put in a 2, put in a 3, put in a 4, put in a 5, and then add up those 5 answers, right? Just so we're clear on what it's doing. Okay. Given the first term and the common, I hope it doesn't say this on your quiz. Doesn't it say D here and it says arithmetic? Then it is a difference, not a ratio. Given the first term and the common difference, D, of an arithmetic sequence, find the exact value of the 7th term. That's just using this, guys. A sub 7 would equal the first term of 17, plus if you're finding the 7th term, n is 7, so you'd have 7 minus 1 times the difference of -1.5, which I would have put out here, but it doesn't matter. This would be 17 plus 6 times -1.5, which is 17 minus 9, I think. Did everybody type it? 17 minus, was it, help me guys, what was the, I forgot already. 7 minus 1 times, what was the R? Thank you. What did I do? Oh, it was supposed to be plus. I'm like, either I did it wrong in my head or this was plus, right? Okay. I got 8, same as I did when I did in my head correctly. All right. Life expectancy of a battery. This is an empirical rule formula, which is on your reference sheet on the back of the unit circle. It says the mean is 500 hours. That means this value right down the middle is 500. And the standard deviation is 20. So this next line would be 520, 540. You would really need to draw it, not write on the reference sheet, but I'm trying to save time. And it wants to know, oh my goodness, I can't write. It wants to know what is the probability that a battery lasts for more than 540 hours, okay? Now, there's a trick to this. Do you remember that it's not really just 2.35? That there's a little bit out past that, right? So you have to say, what is this middle line? What percent is above that? 50%. But we didn't want this 34, right? So we subtract that off. And we didn't want this 13.5. So what's left is not actually 2.35, it's actually 2.5%. It might be a decimal. I feel like it's a multiple choice question, so either one of those would be the right answer. I don't remember what it looks like. Do one more of those real quick. It says 40 years is the middle. Standard deviation of 5. That would put this at 35 years. What is the probability teacher is under 35? So you want everyone down here. So if the mean was the 50th percentile, it's everyone over here except for this, what? 34%? So if it was 50 minus 34, that would leave 16% below. Everybody good? All right. This could be a time-consuming question, but it's really not meant to be. Do you recognize what the ratio is from these different forms? What are they multiplying by over and over according to this sequence A? 5/4. Okay, this is R right here. So 5/4. It says take the previous term times 5/4, right? So they're multiplying by 5/4. What are they multiplying by over and over here? This one looks like this on the sheet. Be careful. It would be 7 times 2 once or twice or 3 times, right? Do you recognize that that's R? I mean, you could put in a 1, put in a 2, put in a 3, and see what they're multiplying by, but you should really recognize where the R is. This is the only one that takes some work. It says term 1, term 2, term 3. What do we have to remember here? That you're doing something 2 times, and is it adding or multiplying? Said these were all geometric. So it's 3 times R again, gave them 18.75. Well, this is really an R squared, yes. So we would divide by 3. And we'd have R squared equals 6.25. And if you square root that, you get 2.25. 2.5, right? Okay, thank you. Yes, I'm wrong. Okay. What is 5/4? Can we do that as a decimal? 1.25, okay? This one was 2.25. So what is which one has the least ratio R? Oh, this was 2.5. You guys, you told me twice and I didn't fix it. My brain was thinking about changing that other one to a decimal. All right, sorry. So the smallest one is A. Then this one happens to go B. And then the biggest one is C. Everybody gonna be okay on that one? I don't think I made it a zillion points because there's, yeah, might be only a billion. Yeah, no, I don't know if it's 2 or 3 points, but all right. Now we got to go to vectors. This business on vectors at the bottom of the first page, isn't it? Yep. Bottom of your sheet. If you need a little couple hints on vectors, it's down there. But you have to know that these little square parentheses mean you already have the components. Okay? You're not subtracting anything. You already have the components. So find the magnitude of u plus v. Well, this is the magnitude. I guess it doesn't very clearly say that, but magnitude would be 2 squared plus 7 squared. Please don't mess with the negative because then you got to put parentheses, right? 49 and 4 is what? Square root of 53 or some decimal? I'm going to keep going. How do you find an angle? Right down here it says inverse tangent. And it even tells you it's the y over the x. Okay, but the whole part about watch the quadrant, see that down there? Well, what quadrant? How do we even know what quadrant we're in? 2, -7 is over here, right? Okay, so what mode should I be in? Degrees. Yep, you can take this whole this section in degrees. Inverse tangent. Whoa, that was an inverse tangent. -7/2. Okay. Gives me -74 degrees. Is that in quadrant 4? Right, go back 74 degrees. If that wasn't a choice, what else could you do to stay in that same quadrant? Add 360. Is that 286? 276? Somebody helping me? 286? Okay, thank you. Questions? It's a multiple choice question, I think, so you'll just have to figure out which one's there. All right. This one is find the exact components. If you already know the vector is 50 miles an hour at an angle of 120, this is this stuff, guys. So it's 50 cosine of 120, 50 sine of 120. Go to 120 and tell me the unit circle, or the ordered pair, I mean. At 120 degrees on the unit circle, it is -1/2 square root of 3/2, yes? You're fine, I just, -1/2 and positive square root of 3/2. So if I substitute those values in, what's 50 times -1/2? It's going to be a multiple choice question. You got to find the right answer. What is 50 times -1/2? -25, yes. What's 50 times square root of 3 divided by 2? 25 square roots of 3. Are you going to be able to pick out the right ones? I suppose you could type it in and get crazy decimals and then type all the choices in and figure out which one had matching crazy decimals, right? That seems time consuming. Any questions on that one? All right, this is the icky one where you're given a plain old ordered pair, x1, y1, x2, y2, and it says find the vector a to b, so you have to do this business, okay? So it'd be 2 minus 1 and 8 minus 5, which would be 1, 3. And how do you find the magnitude? Now we have components, so we can do 1 squared plus 3 squared, which would be square root of 10, and I'm just going to leave it. And how do you find the angle? Of 3/1. And as long as it's 1, 3 is in quadrant 1, right? So it's never going to give you the wrong answer there in quadrant 1. I got 71.6. If you need more practice on vectors, talk to me. All right, this is a polar question. Polars are on the top of page 2 of your reference sheet. You're welcome. Okay, you had to memorize this earlier this year, but I'm giving it to you now. To find the x over here and to find the y over here, you just do r, and this is theta. So you do 8 cosine 2 pi over 3, and then 8 sine 2 pi over 3. It does say exact. It is a multiple choice question. Guess what? Didn't we just use this point on a question a minute ago? 120 or 2 pi over 3 has an x of -1/2 and a sine or y value of square root of 3/2. So what is 8 times -1/2? Guys, you're scaring me. What's half of 8? Okay, it should be -4. 8 square roots of 3 divided by 2 would be 4 square roots of 3. There are some things that are not on here. For example, there's polar graphing. I mean, it's like one question, but you're supposed to do the delta math for some of this practice, okay? I did not put everything on this review. All right, quick probabilities. This has a bunch of marbles. 14, 5, and 6 is 25, right? 2 marbles are drawn. The first is replaced before the second is drawn. Is replaced. So how many are always in that bucket or bag? 25. So what's the chance to get a green? Okay, you put it back. Now what's the chance to get a green? Same. So you get 36 over 625. Is that right, guys? It could be changed to a decimal. I don't remember what it looks like on the test. If it's a free response, either one is fine, but it might be multiple choice. All right. Find the probability that you get an apple or a peach out of this. A basket has 8, 7, and 11 is 26 pieces of fruit. Okay, remember, probability is winners. Well, all I care is I don't get a pear. I want an apple or a peach. So how many apples and peaches do I have to pick from? 15 out of 26. Is everybody okay that that's an or means you win if you get either one of these? Are we good? All right, there is a binomial question. It says specifically use binomial probability. Where do you find that button? Second, vars. Find binom PDF, not CDF. And then it said on an 18 holes, what's the chance that you hit the fairway exactly 11 times if your probability of success is 0.73? So 18 tries, 0.73, and 11. And then I got 0.104. Questions? All right. I don't want to run out of time, so this was just an extra example, and I don't think it's like the one on the final. The answer, if you want to try it when you get home, is 0.25. You can check in Google Classroom. I'll have the notes, and they show how I got that, but I'm just moving on. All right, limits. This says the limit at 1. Now, that is an X value, but the answer is a what? Y value, unless it's undefined. Okay. Or I'm sorry, unless it does not exist. The limit as X approaches 1. So as I get close from the left to X equals 1, which is this line, or I get close from the right, what is the Y value getting closer to from both sides? Yeah, the Y value is getting closer to 1. There is more practice on limits in Delta Math if you do that review. All right, last question is a parametrics question. It looks just like this. The equations you need are in the question. Do you see what I'm saying, guys? It's not on the reference sheet. Andre's kicking a soccer ball. He kicks the ball with initial velocity. This is v sub 0 of 44 feet per second at an angle of 50 degrees with the ground. This is theta. So it says for x, you're going to put in t times 44 is the initial velocity times the cosine of 50 degrees. For y, it says right up there, negative 16 t squared plus t times 44 sine of 50. The ball is on the ground when he kicks it, so there's no initial height. Okay, parametrics and degrees, yes? Okay, parametrics and degrees. Mode degrees, parametrics. Then you go to y equals t 44 cosine 50, negative 16 t squared plus t 44 sine 50. Window. T stands for time. So I did 0 to 5. That's a nice base. If for some reason it didn't come down, you could add more time, but I don't think it should take more than 5 seconds for a soccer ball to come down. But make sure this T step is like 0.1. Okay, I don't know how far the soccer ball is going to go. I put 0 to 100. And I don't know how high it's going to go. I put 0 to 30. You don't have to have the exact same window. I don't even ask you what the window is. I just ask you to figure out how far it is away. It says distance traveled horizontally when the ball hits the ground. So you want to make sure you're in trace and trace along as close to 0 as you can get for the height of the ball. Everybody good? And some of you might want to mess around and make this even better, but I got it's around 59 something, right? Did anybody try 2.11? Was it better? Yeah, it's not going to get much better. It's between 59 and 60 feet, about 59 point something. Come on, move these out of the way. 59 point something. I'm going to just say 59.5, but if you were between 59 and 60 feet, I'd be good. Questions? Okay, there are definitely a couple things that are in the Delta Math practice that are not practiced on here, like plotting a point for a polar, more limits practice. I don't remember what else. Anybody have a question? Okay, thank you for letting me get a better video recorded.